Right away in today's passage, we know something is up. The desert blooms with flowers. The wilderness sings aloud with joy. Things we would never expect to see. Well, occasionally deserts do come to life, but only after the brief seasonal rains. Then most of the vegetation dies back again, and the desert resumes its normal pattern of relentless drought. But never do we hear the wilderness break out in singing. That's what tips us off that something big is about to happen. Hello, I'm Stuart Baskin, pastor of First Presbyterian Church of Tyler, Texas. The Old Testament reading for the third Sunday of Advent in Year A provides us with a feast for the eyes. It describes a wilderness fundamentally changed. Descriptive words dominate this passage. We read about deserts blooming and singing. We read about the blind regaining their sight and the deaf having their ears unstopped. The lame walk, and those who cannot speak find their tongues loosened. This passage is one of the ones Jesus referred to in the gospel reading from yesterday when he responded to John's disciples by telling them to report to John what they see. The blind receive their sight, he said. The lame walk. The lepers are cleansed. The deaf hear. The dead are raised. And the poor have good news brought to them. Listen to this portion from the 35th chapter of Isaiah, and you'll hear what Jesus is referring to. The wilderness and the dry land shall be glad. The desert shall rejoice and blossom like the crocus. It shall blossom abundantly and rejoice with joy and singing. The glory of Lebanon shall be given to it, the majesty of Carmel and Sharon. They shall see the glory of the Lord, the majesty of our God. Strengthen the weak hands and make firm the feeble knees. Say to those who are of a fearful heart, be strong, do not fear. Here is your God. He will come with vengeance, with terrible recompense. He will come and save you. Then the eyes of the blind shall be opened, and the ears of the deaf unstopped. Then the lame shall leap like a deer, and the tongue of the speechless sing for joy. For waters shall break forth in the wilderness, and streams in the desert. The burning sand shall become a pool, and the thirsty ground springs of water. The haunt of jackals shall become a swamp. The grass shall become reeds and rushes. A highway shall be there, and it shall be called the Holy Way. The unclean shall not travel on it, but it shall be for God's people. No traveler, not even fools, shall go astray. No lion shall be there, nor any ravenous beast come up on it. They shall not be found there, but the redeemed shall walk there. And the ransom of the Lord shall return, and come to Zion with singing. Everlasting joy shall be upon their heads. They shall obtain joy and gladness, and sorrow and sighing shall flee away. As we've seen so many times before, this is a description of a world restored. Salvation is not so much being taken out of this world, but the world being changed back into what God intended all along. And along with the effects of that restoration is the gift of healing and wholeness. When Jesus sent John's disciples to tell him what they had seen, Jesus clearly meant that his acts of healing were signs of that coming restoration of God's good creation. But there's something else here, something very important. You see, most of the verbs in this passage are future tense and simply describe a future state. But in verse 3, there is a string of 3 verbs that are different. They're not future tense, but present tense, not indicative mood, but in imperative mood. Commands: strengthen the weak hands, make firm the feeble knees. Say to those who are of a feeble heart, a fearful heart, be strong, do not fear. Here is your God. Strengthen, make firm, say. while the rest of this passage tells us what to expect, when these three verbs tell us what to do. And it is all about bringing comfort to people based on confidence in God's promises. What we see in Jesus Christ is these three imperatives, these commands embodied. And this is exactly what Jesus did. And it is, by the way, what we are called to do as his disciples. Tomorrow, the writer of the letter of James calls on us to be patient in our waiting. But for now, may God continue to bless you and keep you in all that you do this day and in all the days ahead.